If you have started seeing more hair in the shower drain, on the pillow, on the brush, or caught in the collar of your shirt, then you know how quickly a quiet worry can turn into a loud one. At first, you tell yourself it is probably nothing. Maybe you washed your hair later than usual. Maybe the light in the bathroom is harsher than normal. Maybe you are imagining it. But then it happens again, then again. And after that, you stop seeing hair as just hair. You start seeing proof. Proof in the sink, proof on the floor, proof on your hands after shampoo, proof in photos, proof under bright lights. And from that point on, every mirror feels less like a mirror and more like a question you do not want to answer. Because hair loss does not only touch the head, it touches the mind. It gets into how you feel when you leave the house, how long you stare at your hairline, how you part your hair, how you stand under sunlight, how you react when somebody raises a camera, how old you feel, how healthy you think you are, and whether or not you still look like yourself. A person can act calm about thinning hair in public and still feel a small private panic every morning alone in the bathroom. So before we go any further, let me say something clearly. If this has been weighing on you, you are not shallow and you are not overreacting. Hair carries identity. When it changes, people feel it deeply. I also want to be careful and honest at the start. I am not telling you that every kind of hair loss comes from one simple cause, and I am not telling you to ignore a real medical issue. If your hair loss is sudden, severe, patchy, painful, associated with scalp sores, coming with major fatigue, rapid weight change, fever, or other symptoms that do not feel ordinary, speak with the attending physician, Dr. John. That matters. Some forms of shedding are temporary and harmless, and some deserve proper evaluation. What I am giving you here is the hidden map most people never get at the beginning. The causes that are often overlooked, the mistakes that make the problem worse, and the slower, less glamorous truth that actually helps. Because the reason so many people stay confused about hair loss is simple. They are looking at the hair, but the story often started somewhere else. The panic begins at the scalp, but the pressure may have started in your stress, your sleep, your hormones, your diet, your illness history, your styling habits, your inflammation, your medications, or your nervous system months earlier. And that is what makes hair loss feel so unfair. By the time you see it, the trigger may already be behind you. The shedding is the echo, not always the event itself. Most people do not know that. They assume the problem began the week they noticed it. Many times, it began far earlier. That delay is one of the most important truths on this subject, and it is the first hidden cause most people miss. Stress does not always take your hair immediately. Sometimes it puts your hair cycle into motion, and the shedding shows up 2 or 3 months later. You go through a breakup, a layoff, a major illness, a surgery, a brutal season at work, a family crisis, terrible sleep, a long period of anxiety, and you survive it. You tell yourself you are past the worst of it. Then weeks later, when life is finally a little calmer, your hair begins to fall. That delay makes people misread the situation. They blame a shampoo, a weather change, a new product, or one random bad day, when the body has actually been carrying a deeper burden. And stress is not only emotional stress. The body does not separate life stress into neat boxes the way the mind does. To the body, illness is stress. A high fever is stress. Major weight loss is stress. Undereating is stress. Childbirth is stress. Hormonal swings are stress. Poor sleep is stress. Overtraining is stress. Emotional shock is stress. Even doing all the right things while running on empty can be stress. That is why two people can have very different stories and still end up at the same mirror, asking the same frightened question, why is my hair suddenly coming out like this? The second hidden cause is poor sleep, and people underestimate this one because it sounds too ordinary. But the body does not repair well in a constant state of exhaustion. Hair is not a survival organ. If your system is strained long enough, it will protect what it considers essential first. Deep rest supports hormonal balance, tissue recovery, inflammatory control, and basic restoration. When sleep breaks down, the body often shifts into a more defensive mode. The result may not show on the first night or even the 10th. It shows later, in a face that looks more drawn, a mind that feels more brittle, and hair that no longer seems to have the same fullness, resilience, or staying power it had before. The third hidden cause is not eating enough, especially not eating enough of what hair actually needs. Many people trying to clean up their diet unintentionally strip it down too far. They reduce protein, they cut meals, they fear carbs, then fear fats, then fear calories, and soon the body is running on rules instead of nourishment. Hair follicles are metabolically active. They need building material. If the body does not get enough energy, enough protein, enough iron, enough micronutrients, it starts making choices. And hair is often one of the places where those choices become visible. A person can feel proud of rapid weight loss and devastated by the shedding that follows. They think the weight loss is proof of health, but the hair sometimes tells a more complicated story. This is especially important right now because so many people are aggressively dieting, fasting too hard, or losing weight quickly after a long period of overeating. They celebrate the number on the scale, but they do not always see the full cost at first. Then one day they do. They wash their hair and more of it comes away than they expected. They run a hand through it and strands keep coming. They pull it back and the density is no longer what it was. The cruel part is that the hair loss often arrives after the excitement. It shows up when they were expecting to feel better, more attractive, more in control. That is why this particular form of shedding can hit people so hard emotionally. It feels like betrayal during a season that was supposed to feel like progress. The fourth hidden cause is low iron and other nutrient problems, especially in people who assume a basic multivitamin is enough to cover everything. It often is not. Hair is sensitive to deficiencies. Iron matters. Protein matters. Overall nutrition matters. Sometimes vitamin levels matter. Sometimes the issue is not a trendy deficiency at all, but a simple one. A body that has been underfed, inflamed, exhausted, or recovering. And because hair grows in cycles, the consequence may not look dramatic at the start. It may just look like your ponytail feels smaller, your part looks wider, your temples look thinner, your wash days feel frightening, and you cannot tell whether it is real or whether you are becoming obsessed. That uncertainty is part of what makes hair loss so mentally draining. The fifth hidden cause is hormone disruption, and this one touches far more people than most realize. Hormonal changes after childbirth can trigger intense shedding. Perimenopause can change hair texture and density. Thyroid problems can affect hair across the scalp. Polycystic ovarian patterns can show up in thinning. Men can see gradual androgen-driven changes that seem to creep in while they are busy focusing on everything else. And women often suffer doubly here because they are told hair thinning is common, but not told clearly enough when common still deserves investigation. The result is months or years of quiet distress, half answers, expensive products, and the feeling that nobody is explaining the whole picture. The sixth hidden cause is the scalp itself. People love to talk about what they can put on the hair shaft, but a neglected, irritated, inflamed scalp is not a neutral environment. Persistent flaking, itching, redness, buildup, harsh product overload, heavy residue, or constant scratching can create a bad setting for already stressed follicles. Not every irritated scalp causes major hair loss, but it can absolutely become part of the larger pattern. A scalp that feels inflamed all the time is a signal worth respecting. Many people try to silence that signal with stronger styling, more dry shampoo, more fragrance, more heavy products, more tightness, more heat, and in the process they add insult to injury. The seventh hidden cause is tension, and this one hides in plain sight because it often comes dressed as grooming. Tight ponytails, tight buns, tight braids, extensions worn too long, repeated pulling at the same fragile areas, flat irons, bleach, harsh processing, rough detangling, brushing wet hair aggressively, trying to force a style onto hair that is already becoming weaker. When people panic about hair loss, they often start handling the hair more, not less. They inspect more, tug more, wash more, style more, and treat more. But stress plus tension plus heat plus chemicals is a rough combination. Hair that needed relief gets put under pressure instead. The eighth hidden cause is medication, illness, and recovery. A person gets sick, recovers, and assumes the story is over. It may not be. Certain medications can contribute. Major infections can contribute. Surgery can contribute. Recovery itself can contribute. And again, because of the delayed timing, the hair loss often seems disconnected from the cause. That is why people feel so blindsided. They say, "But I am better now. Why is this happening now?" Because hair cycles are slow. The body keeps score in its own time. Hair often tells the story later. Now here is another truth many people need to hear. Genetics matter, but genetics are not the whole conversation. Some hair loss is strongly hereditary. That is real. But even in genetically vulnerable people, the rate, timing, expression, and severity can still be influenced by stress, hormones, inflammation, nutrition, illness, and care habits. People often swing between two extreme beliefs. Either they tell themselves, "It is all genetics, nothing matters," or they tell themselves, "One oil or one supplement will reverse everything." Both extremes are comforting because they are simple, and both are often incomplete. The real picture is usually more layered. Predisposition is one thing. What activates it, accelerates it, or worsens it is often another. And this is where so many people lose months they cannot get back. They do what frightened people naturally do. They chase the nearest promise. They buy the serum with the dramatic before and after photos. They order the gummies. They buy the miracle brush, the scalp massager, the overnight oil, the expensive shampoo, the secret herb, the device that glows, the powder that claims to turn the clock back, the supplement stack with 20 ingredients they have never heard of, all because fear wants speed. Fear does not want a timeline. Fear wants rescue. The problem is that hair almost never responds well to panic. Hair responds to pattern, time, and the removal of stressors more than to last-minute desperation. So what do you do when the shedding is real and the fear is loud? First, stop treating every loose strand like a verdict on your future. I know that is hard. But the mind can make the situation worse by turning normal observation into constant surveillance. If you check the mirror 10 times a day, compare old photos every night, and examine every strand under bright light, you train your nervous system to stay in alarm. That alarm does not diagnose the cause. It only deepens your exhaustion. Second, zoom out and build a timeline. Ask yourself what changed in the last 3 to 4 months, not just the last 3 to 4 days. Did you go through a highly stressful period? Did you get sick? Did you lose weight quickly? Did you stop eating enough? Did you start or stop a medication? Did you have a baby? Did your cycle change? Did you enter perimenopause? Did you notice new fatigue, cold intolerance, brittle nails, scalp irritation, or a sudden change in texture? Hair loss is often easier to understand when you stop staring only at the hair and start mapping the season that came before it. Third, if the situation seems significant or persistent, do not be embarrassed to get evaluated. That is not vanity. That is basic care. A proper conversation can help distinguish between temporary shedding, pattern thinning, hormone-related changes, scalp conditions, traction, or other causes. And if you have red flags, bring them up directly with the attending physician, Dr. John, instead of hoping they disappear on their own. Hope is comforting, but information is better. Fourth, Simplify what touches the hair while you figure. When hair feels fragile, this is not the moment for maximum heat, maximum bleach, maximum tightness, and maximum experimentation. Be gentle when wet. Reduce tension, reduce harshness, reduce friction. If your scalp is irritated, do not ignore it. If a hairstyle hurts, it is already telling you something. If a product makes your scalp burn, itch, or erupt, that is not proof it is working. Irritation is not growth. Fifth, support the body in the least glamorous ways, because unfortunately those are often the ways that matter most. Eat real meals, prioritize protein, stop living on stimulants and snack fragments if that is what you have been doing. Try to bring sleep back into order. Lower the total burden you are placing on your system. If you are training hard, dieting hard, and sleeping badly while expecting your hair to remain thick and calm, you may be asking a stressed body for more than it can give. Hair is not separate from the rest of you. It answers to the same conditions as everything else. And now let me say something that many people need to hear in order to calm down. Not all shedding means permanent loss. Shedding and thinning are not always the same story. Temporary shedding can look dramatic. It can scare you badly. It can fill the drain and shake your confidence. But dramatic does not automatically mean irreversible. This is where people do themselves harm by assuming the worst too early. The body often needs time. The cycle often needs time. Recovery often needs more patience than the internet is willing to tolerate. That patience is hard because hair moves slower than anxiety. Anxiety wants proof by next week. Hair does not care. Hair works on a slower clock. Sometimes the event that triggered the shedding happened months before. Sometimes improvement begins internally before you can see it externally. Sometimes the first win is not new growth but less fallout. Sometimes the density feels unchanged while the system is stabilizing. People quit too soon because they expect hair to obey the speed of panic. It does not. It obeys biology. This is also why the industry around hair loss is so loud. No one makes easy money telling people to sleep better, eat enough protein, treat the scalp kindly, reduce tension, investigate the timing, check for underlying issues, and give the cycle time. That message does not sound dramatic. It does not promise overnight transformation. It does not make for flashy marketing. The profitable message is always more exciting. It says your answer is one bottle away, one secret away, one checkout page away, one miracle routine away. And a frightened person is very easy to sell to because fear wants a hero and packaging often plays the hero better than truth does. I am not saying every product is useless. I am saying confusion is a business model. The more overwhelmed you feel, the more likely you are to keep buying. So step back. Ask what is evidence and what is theater. Ask whether the thing you are about to spend money on addresses a real cause or only your need to feel you are doing something right this second. Action can comfort you even when it does not help you. That is worth remembering. Now let me gather the whole thing so it is clear. Hidden hair loss often comes from delayed stress, poor sleep, undereating, rapid weight loss, low iron or other nutrient issues, hormone shifts, thyroid problems, scalp inflammation, tension from styling, illness recovery, medication effects, genetic vulnerability, or several of these at the same time. That is why one-size-fits-all answers fail so often. The hair is visible, but the causes are layered. If you only treat the surface, you may miss the real pressure underneath. So the better approach is slower and smarter. Look back, not just at the mirror, but at the months behind you. Support the body instead of punishing it harder. Stop making your scalp fight your styling habits. Be careful with crash dieting dressed up as discipline. Be skeptical of panic shopping. Be patient enough to let the cycle reveal itself, and when something feels medically off, say so early rather than late. Most of all, do not let hair loss turn into a private story that says you are fading, failing, or losing yourself. That story hurts more than the shedding. Hair can thin for many reasons, and some of those reasons are temporary. Some are manageable. Some simply need the right name. The worst place to live is in vague dread. Clarity is calmer than dread. Even when the answer is not instant, understanding is already a kind of relief. And if you are in that frightening stage right now, where every shower feels like bad news and every photo makes you zoom in on your part or your temples, take a breath before you do anything else. You may not need more panic. You may need a timeline. You may need sleep. You may need nourishment. You may need gentler hands. You may need real evaluation. You may need fewer promises and more patience. In other words, you may need to stop fighting the symptom alone and start listening to the system that produced it. That is the part many people never hear soon enough. If this spoke to what you have been going through, tell me what changed in the months before your hair started shedding. Was it stress, illness, dieting, hormones, poor sleep, a scalp issue, tight styling, a medication, or are you still trying to figure it out? I would genuinely like to know which pattern shows up most often, because that is where the real conversation begins. And in the next one, I want to break down the early warning signs that help you tell the difference between temporary shedding, pattern thinning, stress-related fallout, and the kinds of changes that deserve faster medical attention, because that confusion is where a lot of people lose time and confidence. So if you do not want to miss that, stay close. Until then, if you find yourself staring at the drain, the brush, the pillowcase, or the mirror, and feeling that familiar drop in your stomach, do not rush to the loudest promise. Step back, look